Thank you for joining us this rainy evening. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. To my immediate left, we have Becker, Senior Vice President, Trade, Marketing, and Communications at Paramount. Anne is a marketing leader with 25 years of experience in marketing, internal and executive communication, and sales enablement for the company's advertising division currently. Prior to Paramount, she led marketing and communications at Tribeca Film Institute, where she managed brand strategy and expansion efforts. And her career actually began in journalism, we'll hear about that soon, where she covered media and entertainment for publications including the New York Post, broadcasting and cable, all of which provided her with the insights we're going to hear this evening, and how all of that has informed her leadership approach. Next, to Anne's left, we have Idia Ogala, founder of CBG Marketing. Idia is the founder of CBG, which is a boutique agency specializing in connecting global creators with top brands through strategic partnerships. So all of you who want to be influencers, this is your guy. CBG's mission is to educate creators on marketing strategy while helping them craft, negotiate, and execute impactful brand partnerships. Since its inception in 2017, the agency has serviced over 1,000 high-profile creators across entertainment, sports, wellness, beauty, and the nonprofit sectors. And prior to that, Idia led global brand partnerships at companies in the media, sports, and tech sectors, including the NBA, Disney, Klarna, and DraftKings. Welcome. Next, we have Luis Maldonado, who is a partner and managing director at exposito Partners. Luis is a marketing strategist and communications professional who specializes in Hispanic and multicultural marketing. He has more than 15 years of experience, and currently at exposito, he works on key client accounts while leveraging his expertise in branding, strategy, and PR to create campaigns that connect brands with diverse Hispanic communities across the US. His award-winning work includes 2 Emmy wins, a North American Effie, 2 David Ogilvy Awards, and numerous recognitions from Hispanic marketing associations around the country. His early career spans numerous sectors as well, lots of movement in our careers here, see a recurring theme, including nonprofit, packaged goods, healthcare, government, and entertainment. And then last but not least, we are joined by Scott Newman, who is the founder and creative director at Work by Work. He's the festival director of the On Air Fest as well. Scott is a multimedia artist and storyteller. He founded Work by Work to satisfy the needs of brands looking to express themselves through true and authentic storytelling. His approach is grounded in 20 years of experience building brands and crafting successful cross-platform marketing campaigns. He, as I said earlier, is also the founder and director of the On Air Fest, which is the premier podcast festival. I know there are some podcast producers, either current or aspiring, in the audience. He is your guy. So welcome, another round of applause for these fantastic panelists. They have done so much, I am already exhausted from giving their bios, but I always like to start at the beginning, right? I read the official bio, but tell me in your words, how did you get here? Not by train, but give me your version of your journey to the stage tonight. We'll start with you, Anne.
Yeah, thank you. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. It's nice to see you all. So I started my career as a reporter after college. I thought that I wanted to write for the New York Times. That was my goal. My first job out of college was in an entry-level position at the New York Post called the Copy Kid program. It was half newsroom assistant, half hazing program where you didn't have any hours of your own. You just got called in when someone else couldn't be there. It could be 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. It could be better hours. You were hauling stacks of newspapers, passing around copies of the headlines to the folks who wrote the headlines, but with the caveat that if the city desk was short-staffed, they would send you out with a beeper back then and a big map and say, kid, get yourself to the Bronx. There's a body lying in a pool of blood in a bodega, and go knock on doors and see if anybody knew anything. That was not necessarily the breed of reporting I was aiming to do, so I moved on after some time to write for a trade magazine covering the business of TV called Broadcasting and Cable. From there, I got really interested in working in the industry that I was covering. Instead of writing about people in the industry, I wanted to go do it myself. So I went back to school to get an MBA full-time, ended up in sales marketing, which is the department I work in now, but at NBC. Spent 5 years after that starting and running a marketing and comms team for the nonprofit arm of the Tribeca Film World, Tribeca Film Institute, which led me to running a sales marketing team for CBS News. CBS merged with Viacom to become Paramount, and that's what landed me through a windy path to the road that I'm in now. And that's like the medium version, but I can.
And none of that was in the bio I just read?
Yeah, that was the more
glad
colorful
yes.
version,
Yes. How about you, Idia? What are the major chapters in your journey?
So I'm gonna piggyback and do a super medium, consolidated version of everything, but I graduated high school around the time of the financial crisis, so around 2008. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to kind of focus on when it comes to college. But I know that I was good at math. My parents kind of encouraged me to look into economics and different career paths that are more traditional. I'm Nigerian. Nigerians are very focused on legal and healthcare and things of that nature. So, I was trying to find my way. Fast forward, started school, I was studying actuarial science. That's something that, I'm good at math. I had an uncle who was an actuary in the state of Pennsylvania. So picked his brain and kind of learned about the field and tried to dive into it. Got to college and I hated it. So, so during those first 6 semesters, the first 6 semesters, I was taking a lot of electives. I was involved with a lot of student groups and ended up transitioning into marketing. So, actuarial science to marketing, and then from there, I wanted to focus on sports. So I interned with the NBA. New York Jets first, then the NBA. Was able to get those opportunities through a lot of networking and a lot of hustling and things of that nature. Once I got my foot in, I kind of kicked the door down, and then from there got involved with the NBA full time. Was working on their global business, specializing in Latin America and focusing on brand partnerships. Spent 7 years there, transitioned to Disney, Walt Disney. So I was on the Disney and ESPN side of the businesses, managing our streaming endeavors and live sports. From there to Klarna, so I was on the product marketing side, managing a suite of about 30 brand partners. DraftKings most recently, and that one was more so focused on strategy for NBA and college basketball. So that's how I kind of got to where I am today. So confusion, actuarial science, marketing, and then kind of just kept it pushing from there. And within the marketing realm, I've done brand partnerships, product marketing, and now creator marketing. So that's my consolidated crazy story.
I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to start at the very, very beginning. And not to tell a long story, but the beginning actually impacts where I am today and actually what I do every day. I was born, my family's from Puerto Rico, but I was born in Hawaii because my dad was in the service there. He was in the Navy. And then I grew up in Ohio, just outside of Cleveland, because that's where my grandparents moved in the 50s, right? They moved from Puerto Rico to Cleveland, Ohio because of work, which is a lot of what takes a lot of immigrants to where they end up, where they migrate, right? So I went to school, I grew up there, went to college there. I actually studied at Conservatory of Music. I studied classical clarinet, and I did that for a bit. And then I started to work for the Department of Defense. So when we talk about career missteps, that was one of them, right? And then I went to grad school in Indiana University. I got an MBA there. And then shortly after that, I moved to New York because while I was at Indiana in the late 90s, that's when this idea of Hispanic and multicultural marketing really started, taking shape, started taking fervor. The census was coming. They knew the Hispanic, population was growing by leaps and bounds. And while at first I thought, I was going to tap my upbringing, my cultural expertise to do Latin American business, I actually realized I could do business right here with our own people, right? And so I moved to New York, started working for what was the largest Hispanic advertising agency at the day, the Bravo Group, which our current chairman was the one that led the Bravo Group. It was part of YNR and WPP, and she was leading that. And then in 2005, we all went off and started our own entity where we are now, the Exposito and Partners. So why did the beginning sort of end up shaping who I am today and what I do is because in Cleveland, yes, there are a lot of Latinos there, especially there's more now than there were back then. And I was part of that community. My grandparents, my aunts, uncles, my parents grew up in that community, but we didn't live in that community. We lived right outside of the community, which was not as diverse as one might think, right? Probably typical what you think of Ohio. And so I spent a lot of my time, navigating different cultures, primarily white cultures, not only growing up, but in college and then in grad school. And that really sort of gave me an appreciation for my culture, but then also try how to sort of help others become more aware and appreciative of the Hispanic culture, and then other cultures eventually, right? And so that's what I've done my entire career. That's what got me interested in advertising, in Hispanic advertising, and that's why I'm here today.
The theme continues. How about you, Scott?
My father wore a suit to work every day, and he was up at 6 a.m., and I was not going to be like my father. And then I got kicked out of middle school. And I graduated from a different middle school and a different high school. And then, I struggled through college to figure out why this matters, why I'm even doing this. And I just wanted to be a musician. And I also have a music background. And then I went to an audio engineering program, right over here, the Institute of Audio Research. And I did a 9-month trade program to be a music producer. And then I got a job in radio. And I was at CBS News in the late 90s. And at the broadcast center, you had 60 Minutes over here, and evening news over here, and 48 hours over here. And at some point I realized you could go around and pitch people ideas. And I started doing that. And I haven't stopped for 20 years. This is what I do. I pitch ideas, I get people excited about things, and then we ask for money. And I'll tell you more about that.
Perfect segue, because I want each of you to sort of walk the audience through what you're doing every day, besides pitching people and asking for money. We'll go in reverse order, but talk us through a typical day, a week in your life, and really what your job entails.
So I have a creative agency and a production company that's called Work by Work. And we work in service of brands, cultural organizations, some nonprofits, but also for-profits, lifestyle companies, tech companies, MasterCard, Sonos, Netflix, and a lot of media companies in their marketing efforts. At the same time, I own and run a creative podcast festival called On Air Fest, and this festival grew during a time when the podcast industry was growing. And a lot of our media clients are trying to figure out how to get into podcasting, and a lot of the podcast people are trying to figure out what's going on in media and how do you make money and what's interesting and what's, groundbreaking work, but how do I do it? And we have an audience of, independent creators and media companies and also brands that want to participate in the space. My day-to-day is sort of dancing between these two things. Because on one hand, we have clients that give us prompts. They say like, how do we participate in this culture? How do we market this product, using that medium or whatever? And then we have the festival, which brings these people together to explore the space and, innovate and get these kind of collaborations off the ground. So I spend a lot of time talking to people, putting together ideas that pair different goals. You have this goal, you have this goal. How can we find 1 + 1 = 5? We have an in-house design and creative department. So even though we have a lot of audio as our focus and deep roots in radio and audio, it's a multimedia world, So it's like I'm also in the events business. and we have a design team, and we make films, and every day is about social media engagement and all of this kind of thing. So I manage a team of about 10. The big projects and the medium projects we ramp up with independent contractors. I think that's relevant for everybody here today. The duality of like in-house employment and what it means to be freelance contractor in today's marketplace. And yeah.
How about you, Luis?
Well, actually somewhat similar. I work at an agency, as you know. But then also on the side, my side hustle, if you will, is the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. I've been on the board of directors of the parade. If you've ever heard of it, it happens annually. Second Sunday of June, takes over Manhattan on Fifth Avenue. But I've been on the board of directors since 2014. Played a couple of different roles there. One of them was board chair for about 5 years. But similarly, we create content, we do design, we do social media all the time. We're all volunteers, although we do tap contractors and freelancers to help with the work because it is to execute everything. We on the board are volunteers, and so that's an opportunity for anybody that's looking to get some initial experience. Festivals and other types of organizations that need that help can certainly use talent. But on the day job, which is my primary gig, I'm a partner there. I grew up in account services and account management, and for anybody that may not know agency life, we deal directly with the clients. We're sort of like the business people within. We also sort of lead the internal team, and we are an integrated agency, which means we do creative and production, but then we also have media planning, buying, and public relations, and grassroots, and direct, and digital, and whatnot. So my team that I lead helps oversee, on the account team helps work with the rest of the agency teams to get the job done for the clients, right? Some of our clients, tahine seasonings. Some of you may know tahine from margarita rims, or for those of you that perhaps may not be of age yet, on fruits and veggies and different sorts of foods, right? So that's what New York City is one of our clients. We do a lot of work for them. Point 32 Health, which is a managed care company or an insurance company, health insurance up in the Northeast. Nielsen is another one, but then we have lots of other past experience as well. And so, no day is the same. Everything's a different challenge for a different client, or coming up with a new idea, trying to help them grow their business, creating campaign ideas. So that's the beautiful thing about advertising. It's super fast-paced, a lot of pressure, a lot of personalities, both on the client side and the agency side, but it's a lot of fun, and you really have to love what you do, and it does impact culture, right? Because what we do oftentimes goes into pop culture, and so it's just a lot of fun. And yes, we do have to sell stuff. We do have to sell a lot of stuff, but what I really love about the job, particularly why I love Hispanic or multicultural, is because we are trying to help inform our community about brands or services or programs that can help them. Or in some cases, like the census, I've worked on the census campaigns in the past, it's encouraging them, raising awareness and knowledge of what the census is, what it does, and encouraging them to participate so that their family can be counted and their communities can get the resources and the money and all that stuff, right? And we did the same thing with AARP so they could take advantage of the membership and all the benefits and programs and services that AARP could offer to help. So a lot of times, advertising might get a bad rap because you're just trying to sell them stuff they don't need. But in reality, you can have a very fulfilling career that's purpose-led by trying to help inform people. I mean, we were absolutely required during the pandemic because we were the ones that were creating all the health guidance, right? So that's the side of the business that I really love and what I sort of gravitate to every day.
How about you, Idia?
So I'd say on my side, it's a combination of servicing existing clients, so creator clients, a little bit of selling, if you will. So similar to what you gentlemen mentioned, my role is to connect the dots between these creators, whether they consider themselves athletes, whether they're podcasters, whether they're social media influencers, connect the dots between them and these strategic long-term brand partners. It's a lot of that one-on-one interfacing with the creator clients to understand what what they care about, how they want to be represented, what type of brands align with the story that they're trying to tell to the world, and then identifying what brand partners make sense, either companies that have campaigns that align well with the creators, companies that have good amount of budget to be able to support, or just again long-term opportunities that make sense and can be recurring and aren't one-offs, aren't like quick posting and quick billboard, leveraging the creators platform, but just more so like how do we do consistent work together across different tempos. It could be Black Friday, it can be Black History Month, it can be NBA All-Star Weekend, Grammys. Like how do we just create something cohesive? So on my side is again, working with the one-on-one clients, having those discussions with them, building out whether it's marketing materials that we can use to then interface with the brands and pitch these ideas. And then for partnerships that are already existing, how do we just work on activating that as best as possible? So brainstorming really cool ideas that we can do to activate either physically or digitally, and then helping the creators with the briefs, executing content and then delivering it for the brands. So I say my role again, it's like the storytelling, it's the servicing, it's the sales, and then just being a student of the game. As you were highlighting culture, culture is very important. So it's important to keep your ear to the streets and just make sure that you're aware of what's happening and how you can kind of take what's happening, try to quantify it and try to use that plus your client to push towards the brands and encourage them to work with us for what we're trying to accomplish.
I suspect Idia drinks a lot of coffee.
No.
None at all?
Celsius and green tea.
There is some fuel to all of that work. But there's a theme building here, and we're coming back to it. But I want Ann to give us her day-to-day.
Yeah, so I'm on the other side of the table from the agencies and brands. I'm on the publisher side. So I run the business-to-business trade marketing team for Paramount Advertising, which is, of course, the advertising division of Paramount. So our job is to communicate the key value prop and narratives of Paramount Advertising, which are culture-defining content, industry-leading solutions, and a commitment to driving business outcomes to our brand and agency partners so that our agency and their clients invest in Paramount. So we do that through partnerships with industry trade organizations that inform how we show up at big industry events, so Cannes, or there's a big one called Possible coming up in Miami. We also run our own series of events called the Now series at our headquarters in Times Square. And then we also run content marketing, so that's newsletters to our client base. We run the Paramount Advertising LinkedIn, which I'll put a plug in for. If you're interested in Paramount Advertising, follow us on LinkedIn, because it's an excellent account of what we're up to in the business. And then my team also runs sales enablement. So I have a team also of about 10. We service a very large organization. We have a wide-reaching portfolio of content, and as I mentioned, industry-leading solutions. So we have to educate the sales team on everything that they have available at their fingertips to pitch, so that we're really empowering them to be our best brand ambassadors when they go out in the marketplace to evangelize what we have to offer. And same, no 2 days are the same. Could be attending an industry conference, could be prepping a sales leader to do a panel like this, could be editing a newsletter, could be working on some LinkedIn stuff. So it's a pretty broad-reaching remit, and it's a lot of fun.
So the theme that has been building, right? So my next question is, in your own words, what are some of the major changes in the field that you've noticed? Because the two that I hear, whether you're on the agency side or the publisher side, you have to do a lot of things, and more things than ever before. Also, some things that I almost feel like are almost old school. You guys have talked a lot about partnerships and connecting the dots and being sort of an ear to the street for the organization. So in your words, what are some of the major changes in this industry that you've seen? We'll start with Ann.
Well, exactly like you said, some things remain consistent. It's a relationship business, so for all the changes that are happening, the capability to build and maintain relationships has not gone away in importance. It's of paramount importance, some might say. But yeah, I think had to get one in there. But I
Well
think
done.
we talk a lot about from the Paramount perspective. TV, legacy TV was always known as an awareness-driving mechanism. If you're familiar with the marketing funnel, the top of the funnel, so raising awareness. But now, over time, the industry looks nothing like it did 5 years ago, and it's incumbent upon us to prove to our clients that not only can we drive awareness, but we can prove business outcomes. We can prove through solutions and capabilities that we've built, partnerships with organizations that allow us to tap into the high fidelity data we have, that the person that saw your ad is the same person that Googled your car or purchased your shampoo at Walmart. And so that's a big change over the past 5 years. We're the funnel, we talk a lot about the funnel, the marketing funnel sort of being flipped on its side. And so that's a big change from our point of view, proving not only awareness, that we can drive awareness, but also that we can prove performance as well and drive business outcomes.
Yes, everyone is nodding. Idia, what have you seen?
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like as time has progressed, we've seen a shift in the way even brands are approaching reaching the end audience. So it might have been, through scattering, advertising across the internet via platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram and things of that nature to try to reach your audience. But now, at least for the work that I do, creators offer that like compelling bridge that kind of allows you to reach an audience with more credibility. You have obviously more. There's more trust. There's more insights. There's more commitment from that group, that audience. So I think on my side it's just about how do we work as best as possible to customize things for the brands to make their job easier. Because at the end of the day, if their KPIs are selling through product or building community and getting digital buy-in, creators have the the expertise and the communities that they've built for the last 1 to 2 decades that allow brands and these bigger companies to be able to drive those targets more aggressively with more efficiency, spending less budget and all that. So for me, I guess the change is just like how do we move from taking shots in the dark to more specific, more guided distribution of content and of product that allow for more conversion down the line.
How about you, Luis?
I'd have to agree, and I'll try not to sound repetitive. I think what's to add to what they both said, it's obviously data and technology that's driving all of it, right? And everything that you just said is absolutely true. But I think the other thing that's true is that we need all of it, right? You need television, you need the digital stuff, you need social, you need creators. All of it is like there isn't a magic bullet. And I think that's the one thing marketers have sort of been trying to find over the last 20 years, and it just doesn't exist. You need all of it, right? And this is going back to whenever Web 2.0 came around, when at first they said, the 30-second spot is going to be dead. We're no longer going to need to do advertising because we can just go digital. Well, here we are 25 years later. Television is alive and well. The 30-second spot isn't only alive and well, but there's 60-second spots and there's 90-second spots that people are buying because all of it is about storytelling. And there's some of it that has to come straight from the brand. And, TV is still the awareness-driving medium, and all the others are sort of support, right? Except for radio. Radio is a little bit unique role. And then digital and the other channels come in to help drive them through the funnel, right? All the way to conversion. And, the big conversation happening now is because there is something called performance marketing. I'm sure you've all heard of it, but, really trying to use the media that can drive performance, that can get people to sign up or to buy something. There's been a lot of focus on that in the industry over the last couple of years. And that's all important, but so is the top part of the funnel, the awareness, the familiarity, the relevance driving messages that are going to build those connections with the consumers, build a relationship with the consumers so it's not just a transaction, that they actually come back and buy you again and actually perhaps will have you, considered their preferred brand. And so, again, as much as stuff has changed, and a lot has changed, and now AI is just going to change everything all over again, and something else will come in tomorrow, the principles are the same, and these are all just tools. The way you go about applying it is what's important, because otherwise, you won't be successful.
Scott, your thoughts?
I would add, everybody is a media maker today. Every single individual, every single organization, every advertising brand is now a publishing brand with podcasts, video podcasts, 19 social media accounts, a newsletter, a website that has editorial content, an event series. So the competitive landscape of reaching ears and eyes and hearts through the lens of advertising, it's just insanely competitive, It's like your sister's Instagram posts are calling for your attention, just like this advertiser is trying to reach you, And then on the other side, on the advertising side, there are so many places that you can activate, And, you have publishers who have own channels, and they say, you can reach this audience here, and this reason and that reason. But Uber has an advertising network now. Home Depot has an advertising network. So you're a hammer maker. You're Black & Decker. Do you advertise on radio and TV, or do you advertise in Home Depot where everyone's walking the halls, trying to find the thing? So it's really, really tough. And the idea of reach versus niche, and like spray and pray or deep, deep engagement. And there's no right answer, I feel like I go back and forth. This is a reach. We got to go reach, and this is like a niche, and we got to really engage. So I don't know. I mean, me personally, I thrive when there's change, and I think that's why I'm an entrepreneur. That's why I'm comfortable kind of maneuvering in these confusing times. But that's not true for everybody, and I think education in the form of really figuring out your point of view about these things. Because I remember being young and feeling like there was a right answer, and that there actually isn't. And the ones that are able to develop a point of view and maybe pitch their take against that are probably the ones that are going to succeed more as things continue to shift.
Everyone write that down. That was worth the price of admission. Data and measurement, absolutely. Creators and deep sort of authentic engagement that's more direct. Integration, right? Integrating everything that everyone's been talking about and storytelling across media. And then the constant change, media fragmentation, and being a creator. I'm sure there are future creators out in this audience, but if nothing else, if you walk away with those 4 things, each of those is its own path. So getting to why a lot of people came here today, what is your advice? All of this change, all of these things you have to do, right? You have to play every position on the baseball field. What are some of your tips for people who are either students or early career who want to be in your shoes next year or a few years from now? We'll give you more time.
Yeah, I can go first. First, I'd say stay curious. I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but stay curious. And the day that you're not curious is probably the day that you're going to have to, it's time for you to move on, right? So, especially when things are changing all the time, it adds that exciting dynamic. 2, be a sponge. That comes right out of curiosity, right out of curiosity. Just be a sponge. Yeah, you have to be active participant as well. But, particularly in my job, I know the first thing that I tried to do, particularly when you're starting, is just be a sponge, particularly when it comes to understanding when there's those higher level conversations happening in internal agency meetings or even with client meetings. Just really taking note of the conversation, who's saying what and how they respond to certain things, because that's going to help guide you and nurture you and give you, the experience for when you have to do it. And then third, just know that you're never going to be ready for that next leap. You're always going to tell yourself, oh, I'm not ready yet. Let me just do this one other thing. Let me just do this, take this course. Let me just do X, Y, and Z. But you're never going to be ready. So at some point, you got to take the leap of faith. And so just don't be afraid to take those calculated leaps of faith, because that's where progress actually comes.
Idia, how about you? And also, what stands out when you see early career folks and you think, that person's going to make it?
Say it again.
When you see someone and you see potential in them, what are some of the specific things that sort of jump out at you?
So one, I just love being around young career-focused folks that have a lot of energy and are excited about the prospects of their career. Like it reminds me of where I was when I was in college, and I just like to kind of get back in that space mentally, because that's where you're most imaginative. That's when you're willing to take a lot of risks, and I just think it's cool to be in this space. The piece of feedback I would say, play in traffic. That's something that I actually stole this from one of my friends, Pauliana. So the concept of playing in traffic is just making sure that you are putting yourself in the positions to be lucky. So whether it's going to that conference, going to staying after to speak to some of these folks to kind of pick their brain about certain things, whether it's creating that newsletter or that blog that you always wanted to do, whether it's shooting your shot on LinkedIn via DMs to ask someone to mentor them or shadow them for a day. Like, just play in traffic as best as you possibly can, because a lot, we're up here for our talent, our work ethic, our skill set, and things of that nature, but we can't overlook the idea that luck plays a part into some of these things. And then also, when people take a liking to you, they want to pull you up and they want to help expedite your process. So what would have taken 4 years maybe takes a year and a half, right? So I just think that just comes from playing in traffic and just being open to just failing forward and putting yourself out there even though it's uncomfortable.
Great advice. Anne, how about you?
I think take advantage of the goodwill that you have as being a student to send those DMs on LinkedIn. People want to help. As I said earlier, it's an industry built on relationships and connections, and we all leverage many connections that we had. People helped us out coming up, and it's an industry where people want to give back, and people want to help students coming up. We were all once in your shoes, so send those LinkedIn DMs or go to that conference and meet that person. I also say leave yourself open to opportunity. It's similar to play in traffic. I would have had no idea that the job that I'm in existed when I was in college, but be open to opportunity as it presents itself. And I guess what stands out on sort of the flip side of the sending the DMs, to me, I'm a stickler for a good thank you note. If you're gonna take someone's time and meet with them, you could really make yourself stand out with a thoughtful thank you note that sort of thanks the person for their time, reiterates your interest in the role, and use the real estate to highlight something that resonated with you from the conversation or stands out about your background. A little could go a long way there.
How about you, Scott?
I would add, I would echo everything that everyone said. Curiosity, showing up, all of that. I would also add, bring something to the table. There is a pattern, and I see it with people who reach out to me, where it's like, oh, I'm young, I'm trying to get in the game, help me. It's all good to do that. But I'll tell you, there's this one woman who reached out, and she said, you need to know how young people are thinking about this one topic on social media. And it was a help me email, but it was through the lens of like, I have something to offer. The older that I get and the way the industry changes, you all will have more of a finger on the pulse than any of us on stage, especially as executives ladder up and companies get bigger and bigger, so the power comes from the ground. Who said that? The power comes from the ground, and it's going to be you guys, who are studying the space, have fresh eyes, have fresh perspectives, are born into the medias that are shaping the future of media, you know? And I would say, consider that you already have something to offer and go out into the market with a level of generosity. And then ask for the business, you know? And then say, hey, can I work for you? Or, hey, can you give me an introduction or tell me about this?
Great advice. We will be moving to Q&A in about 5 minutes. I'm going to give my last questions, but we're going to ask that everyone who does have a question start to make their way to the microphone. I think we only have one, and we've got about 4 minutes left. So I will ask each panelist, panelist choice. Either the best piece of career advice that you've ever been given that you want to share, or what excites you about the future.
Is this book. It's called It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be. Written by designer Paul Arden. Get the book. It's amazing. It's like a chicken soup for the soul, but for designers, graphic designers. But all of the ideas in the book apply to everything. And one of them is that the project in front of you is the dream project. We think that there's this, oh, when I get that one client, when I get that big thing, or when I get that job, you know. So whatever you all are working on today is the project. It might be a deck, it might be an application, it might be a letter, it might be, you know, an assignment. That's the dream project, and put everything into that, and if you do that at every moment, good things happen.
I can go next. The best piece of advice I ever got was to wear my own shoes. What that means is, the scenario was, I was being encouraged to take on a position that was being filled currently by a formidable woman who was just a powerhouse. And very engaging and super intelligent and a great leader. And she wanted me to be her predecessor. And I was very excited and very honored and flattered. But again, I didn't feel ready enough. And I certainly didn't feel like I could wear her shoes. And I fit in her shoes, or fill her shoes, I should say. And so she told me to wear my own. And, you know, I took that leap of faith, just given the experience, and just went after it, and it was the best advice I ever got. And so I think, too, I'd say the same to you. And what that means is, yes, bring something to the table. You have to bring, you know, value to what you're bringing, but also bring yourself and be true to yourself, because that's the most important thing we can do. And nobody can do you better than you. And so obviously, you know, be prepared and show up, as people have said, but show up as yourself, not try to be somebody else, because or what somebody else may want you to be.
How about you, Idia?
I forgot where this came from. I don't know if it was like Bishop T.D. Jakes or Charlemagne the God. I don't remember.
That's okay.
That's very, very broad. But it's like the concept of level 1 is actually level 11. So a lot of us, like we're high school, internship, college, maybe we get to our first dream job out of school at 22 or something like I did, and you feel like you hit all your targets, like you got from 0 to 10, and you're at 10, and then something happens. You get laid off, you get fired, I don't know, something happened, you bad relationship, break up with something happens, and then you end up feeling like you're at ground zero again. I think you just got to lean into that feeling. And as you mentioned before about like the willingness to accept what's happening and pivot, the sooner and the more aggressive you are with accepting that reality, the more you'll be able to understand what lesson you're being taught at ground zero. And then as you climb up, you'll realize you actually went from 0 to 10, and then what you thought was a fall is actually 11. And then you're going from 0 to 10 again. So when you look back at your journey 5 years, 10 years later, you'll see you were doing this the whole time, but it felt like you hit rock bottom. So I think it's just about just stay true, stay focused, stay locked in, and don't allow a little disruption to your motion to slow things down.
Love it. And you have the almost last word?
Okay. Well, these are all really good, so I'm learning up here too. But
Yes.
I'll give two. My mother was a career counselor, so I was always getting career advice from her. So I'll give two on that front. One is I talked about reaching out and building connections. Keep up those connections once you start entering in the workforce, even when you're not looking for a job. I entered the company that I work for now because I had lunch with an old boss of mine just to see her, and the next day she ran into an old colleague in the street who said, CBS News, do you know anyone who would be interested in this job? And she said, I remember Ann, we work together. So keep up those connections even when you're not, before you get to the point when you're looking for something new. And then I would say always have your elevator pitch, your 2-minute version, your 30-second version, your 15-second version, because you never know when you're going to be in a situation where you're wherever, in an elevator, in a wherever, some kind of situation where you need to succinctly kind of pitch your value, and never know where it could end up.
Raise your hand if you have your elevator pitch on the spot, could give a succinct, clear, okay, about 5% of you. Something for everyone to work on immediately. I'll just add, expect resilience. We have 4 people here who have changed careers, who have done things they absolutely hated, and now look where they are. So expect that you will bounce back, expect that you will adapt, and thank you to our fantastic panelists. Another round of applause. So for those who have questions, please make your way to the microphone. You can say your name, your either company or school affiliation, and ask your question.
My name is Lenny Sobel, and I've always wanted to own my own business. I have an LED digital sign truck on the avenue with a psychedelic bicycle riding. Maybe John Campy rings some doorbells from way back when. He was the senior vice president of New York Daily News. Had a home delivery route. Back then, the paper was tremendous. I says, they really need outdoor exposure. I borrowed from my credit cards. I built this truck. Took me 6 months to get into John Campy. John Campy loved the idea, brought me from 1 truck to 15. I pulled Tito Puente in the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I had Danny DeVito stand underneath HBO and say, hi, this is Danny DeVito. And 1,000 people came. COVID destroyed me. 15 trucks, my house, my life, 25 years gone. I got a truck outside. I got 4 big partners, Chase, Capital One, CVS, whatever. I need assistance. I need advertising partners. I need help. I'm 69. I don't know why it's not clicking like it used to. I don't know what I'm saying here.
So I'm going to give you a question.
Please.
Advice, John, is it?
I'm Lenny.
Lenny, sorry.
You could call me John. John works.
I call everybody John, but we're talking to Lenny right now. Advice on navigating the changing landscape. How can someone sort of make the analog to digital world transition?
Email, calls, going door to door. It's unbelievable. Years ago, I'm not aligning. I'm old. Maybe I'm not, so thank you. Sorry I'm taking your time.
That's okay. These folks have other questions, but anyone, advice, suggestions?
Go take a look at my truck. I got my name on there. I'd love to work with you, throw it to you, whatever I got to do. My wife keeps asking me for money. You got any money? So I got to do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lenny. Any thoughts?
We actually have a small business a product called Paramount Ads Manager, where for very tiny micro budgets, you can advertise on TV. So it's not just for huge advertisers anymore. So even the smallest of budget, you can have your small business's ads seen on TV. Maybe that could help.
Yeah,
Local.
And just one other thing to add based on that, we do digital and mass media campaigns, but we also include LED trucks and sometimes, depending on the need, depending on the campaign and what the brand objectives are. For the health insurance company that I mentioned, at one point we did have a brand that did require those types of media, particularly in community media. You add a QR code to the creative and it becomes a digital type of solution. And so just don't give up. I'd say don't call yourself old.
Yes.
Try not to think about being old either, because it really is about your spirit and there's, perhaps go for some of those smaller community outlets or smaller local brands that could really benefit from community-driven media.
And for events in particular, right? Traditional is still necessary. Thank you. your name and your affiliation.
Thanks for your time. My name is Raymond Ulrich. I just moved here from Michigan. For a career change, I study philosophy. I wonder, as leaders of teams, when you're faced with complacency or chaos in your teams, what's a way that you bring up your team as leaders?
Scott, I'll throw that to you.
Okay. Great question. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's not easy managing people because people are they're people.
Problematic.
Well, I didn't say problematic, but you did.
I was going for the alliteration.
I always try to come at it from a place of compassion, empathy, and awareness. And also, my job is to get performance from the team. I'm not the therapist. I'm not the babysitter. A lot of people have told me I'm the best boss they ever had. And I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, I do care, but I'm very clear about the expectation that I have on the work and what that individual is bringing to the team culture. And I think I also lead by example. I'm a very hard worker. I'm incredibly ambitious. And I think they see that, and I think it raises the stakes. And a lot of times the team feels like we're working towards something that may feel a little bigger than just the gig. When I have someone who's demoralized or, not, what was the word you used?
Just like when there's complacency or the chaos is kind of taking over the directive of what your intention is.
Yeah, well, you have to nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
If you're all the way at complacency, then something's gone awry long before. So
Yeah.
I think daily awareness about the team and the purpose and the team dynamic.
Yeah. I would say this something very similar. Make sure everybody knows what the team's outcome is, the collective goal, and what we're trying to achieve, because then everybody knows what their role is, and to try and achieve that as a collective. That's something that I've had to constantly remind myself, because sometimes I'm clear on it, but I have to make sure everybody else is clear, or that perhaps you get input, and perhaps what I thought was clear, actually there's another opportunity. But then going back to complacency, and I think that that's a really good point you bring up, that usually happens because something went awry or there was an issue that arose that wasn't fixed. And so people are trying their best, but then they're like, well, this thing hasn't been fixed, so there's only so much I can do, right? So I think those are both things to consider.
Thanks for your thoughtfulness. I appreciate it.
Excuse me.
Our line is getting longer, so I'm going to assign your questions to a panelist unless there's someone specific you'd like to have answer it. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Idia. I'm actually studying at the New School doing fine arts, so very much on the creative side. But with the hustle culture being a true thing, I was wondering, how do you guys keep sane and kind of balance out your life, making sure you don't burn out? Because it's a massive, everybody goes through that. So if there's any advice or anything that you guys could say.
I'm going to give that to Idia, our hustle culture advocate.
Can you ask it one more time?
How do you
I was choking on my
keep,
water.
that's okay. How do you keep sane? How do you recharge? How do you manage all these 50 million different things you're doing?
That's a good question. I guess on the tech side, I use a lot of project management tools and stuff like that to organize my life and to assign timelines for when I want to accomplish certain things. That keeps me as focused as possible, and kind of gives me some personal boundaries to be able to execute my work. I think personally though, I try and have a good balance when it comes to working crazy hours and weekends and all that stuff to try to scale this agency and do good work as an entrepreneur with going to the gym. I go to the gym 5-6 times a week, so it's important to me. Therapy, I'm in therapy just in general. Been in therapy for about 3 years. It's been amazing for me just in general. Time with family, time with friends. So I take that stuff very seriously. I schedule that into my, flow as aggressively as I do, not as aggressively, but close to how I approach the work. I think that's important because you don't want to get to the point where you're burning out. You're not effective for anyone, and you're not working towards your goals in a meaningful way if you can't function. So I just think it's important to have that balance, but when you are working, go above and beyond to try to, push towards your goals and dreams. So.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Kai Crawford. I'm an independent filmmaker, documentarian. My job is to find solutions to problems that are going on in the world. In your sector, what are some issues that need addressing? Is it like DEI termination? What's lacking right now that needs fixing?
Throw that to Luis.
You're gonna give it to me.
Sorry, unless you don't want it.
No, that's good. I mean, I think just in general, the world's in a little bit of an upheaval, I think you could say. I think it's fair enough to say. Obviously, we have to give ourselves time to process. But in many times, these are the times of opportunity, right? Just trying to figure out, how to keep moving forward, and then what role can we play, both as individuals as well as professionals, in trying to help that opportunity come about, right? Many times, like in the pandemic, we saw that there was lots of opportunity. Many of us, lots of folks were sitting at home twiddling thumbs because things were but we were super active because, again, we were trying to be communicators and help people understand what to do and how to stay safe. Similarly here, I think it's pretty safe to say we're probably going to have to rebuild society to a certain degree, and I think that all of us have an opportunity to help do that, and whether it's advertising or whether it's media programming or it's a film, all of these are ways of communicating and help inspiring folks to take some sort of action or to promote a particular type of issue. To try and help us rebuild our society once it's all done and over with.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael, formerly a Center for Communication Fellow. Most recently an account executive at an influencer agency called Roniverse, currently looking for my next role. I'm also an independent music artist, so Scott, I'm particularly interested in the work you do. And for my next role, I really want to merge, my music with my marketing experience. I have actual agency experience now, so I feel like I have more to bring to the table, but I'm wondering if you have any advice for me.
Oh my God. So I had a mentor who I said, I want to be a musician. Mm-hmm. And he said, then make music.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I want to be a rich musician. Oh, that's something different. And then he told me to get a job.
Yeah.
That's my response to you.
That's it.
Yeah, fair. That was the answer to my question. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nicole, so I'm actually in the process of relocating to New York from Australia, so it's quite a bit of a distance that I've come. But I thought I'd pop in and just ask a couple of questions after
Just
hearing.
pop in from Australia.
Just 14,000 kilometres, not far. But look, my background, spent 5 years at Samsung, about a year and a half at Dreamy Technology. And it's quite interesting just hearing some of the commentary around what's happening in the US market. It's quite similar to what we've seen across Australia and New Zealand. So the one thing that I really wanted to ask is, with challenging market conditions, and I guess this is to everyone, because we've got client side, we've got obviously creative influencers, then we've also got agency, which is great. You don't get these three in the room together usually. But with challenging market conditions and low consumer spend, businesses are turning harder towards sales driving activity. So whether it be client side by way of writing your briefs, or agency by way of response to briefs, how are you guys balancing lower funnel digital performance priorities against high funnel branding mass awareness activities in respect to driving business sales outcomes?
Selfishly, I'm going to start with Anne, who a lot of your time is helping brands see the value in what you're doing. So.
Yeah, that's right. Like I was saying, a lot of our messaging has been about, we have to offer full funnel solutions to our partners. So again, TV's always been known as an awareness driver, but we've really been ahead of the game at Paramount in forging partnerships that allow us to mine our very rich data set that streaming and evolving forms of consumption have provided us, so that we can prove performance to our brand partners. So we can And they have access to an always-on attribution dashboard that lets them see in real time the performance of their media and lets them adjust their campaigns accordingly. So it is a balance, but it is talking in equal measure about our culture-defining content that still drives mass audiences around our entertainment, news, sports coverage, also double-clicking into live, the vast amounts of live programming we have that still commands large audiences that are engaged, that are paying attention, that are providing incremental reach through social conversations, as it is, like I said, partnerships that allow us to prove and show in real time to our partners the performance of their media and allow them to adapt their plans accordingly.
Can I just add to that real quick? Because I think it was an excellent response from a media mix perspective and from a measurement perspective too, because ultimately that's gold, right? But you also need a really strong campaign that's based on a strong idea and more importantly based on a strong insight. If you don't have that, you can put it through all the media in the world and nobody's going to pay attention, right?
That's right.
And so I think it's a combination of both and really do the due diligence for the insights and the ideas because that's what's really going to sell and that's what's going to stay in people's head. And that should be delivered all the way throughout the funnel.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So then,
Quickly.
oh, can I or no? Am I allowed to?
Very quickly.
I guess that's a conversation between short-term versus long-term, right? So then how can you communicate to a business that long-term strategy? So when you lead with a brand-led creative or a creative piece of, that's insight-driven, you're not going to be seeing the conversion right away. For instance, it's more of a long-tail type journey that you're taking a customer on when you lead with the brand campaign.
I think it's both. It could be a social post that's based on an insight and an idea that's going to, it's not long or short. It's everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for waiting.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Ifa. I would say I would call myself a multifaceted creative / young professional. I've been fortunate and blessed enough to have the opportunity to work across finance, tech, but one of my true passions is breaking into media and entertainment. My most current role has been at an investor relations analyst at a private equity firm, but my true passion lies in going towards entertainment, media, or advertising. But I've been struggling to break into that market, so in my free time, I decided to found my own creative agency. So I founded a creative agency called Empowerment Through Artistry, and we do two things. So on side A, we provide creative spaces for creators free of charge to them. So unlike a traditional networking event, we'll provide spaces in let's say a studio. So if you're a performer or you're an artist, you have the ability to come to our event and record a song, produce music. We've done things in a warehouse where if you're a brand, you have the capability to vend at our event free of charge to you, similar to providing spaces for musical artists to perform.
I'm going to stop you and ask you what your question is.
Okay.
Because I have one for you, but do you have a question for a specific panelist?
No, I don't. It would be a general question.
What is it?
But my general question to the panelists would be, are there any gaps in the market, specific skills or approaches that you would wish new talent brought to the table?
I'll throw that to you, Idia, because you work with a lot of new talent that you often have to educate about the industry and the opportunity here. So.
That's a good question. Can you rephrase it? I want to just make sure I understand the question.
Yeah. So to rephrase my question and not the way that I wrote down, just asking as an industry professional in today's market, because the landscape of what you need entering the workforce is always changing.
Yeah.
So what skills, what approaches in terms of pitching to creators or to brands, as somebody is entering the market, what would you like to see the next generation bring to the table?
That's a good question. I would say storytelling for sure. I think that's. I think I heard you say. I think that's an area where it's lacking for the most part, and that's work that we do to kind of help construct that so that we're communicating enough value to brands that make it make sense. So in addition to the marketing platforms that we build on behalf of the creators, we also have to kind of help them, handhold them through their stories. Some of them, like, let's say like during the pandemic, they, posted something home decor focused on Instagram, went viral, and then now it's like they feel like they have to continue to replicate, excuse me, that type of content in order to be able to sustain interest, engagement from their new communities and things of that nature. So, and then when that happens, it's almost like you don't have the foundation that you need to be able to represent yourself as best as possible in conversations, to be able to have those pillars that an audience wants to come to you for, and then to also just be able to package yourself in a way that brands would appreciate and can stand behind. So I'd say storytelling is important, and regardless of what field you're interested in, regardless of what discipline, creator, non-creator, like having a succinct story and being able to walk someone through your journey in a way that makes them feel like they're a part of your story, I think it's important. So that's what I said. I don't know if you had something.
It's a great question. I'm gonna think about it, But I would say, I love your attitude, jumping in, getting involved, starting things. That's the best way to learn. And I think what young people need to bring is being young, and the insights and the knowledge, and you're going to reflect your culture, and then you can do business around that culture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so my question in a really concise form is, you say that students should be passionate. How do we keep that alongside our entire career? Because I know a lot of mentors and people who I look up to who eventually it dies down, it dims. How do we students who are really passionate about marketing keep that throughout our entire career?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Who would like to answer that? How do you keep the fire for what you do, for the industry burning? Scott? Anyone?
I think I have something. So I'd say in addition to, like, the obvious thing that came to mind is just making sure you're engaged with it, observing it, whether it's like commercials, whether it's campaigns that you like, and kind of taking it in and taking inspiration from those things. But that's like the generic answer. The other answer I'd say is like making sure that you are keeping people around that fit different like modes. So whether it's yourself, you have a mentor that's in the marketing space, they can help educate you from the top down about what's happening. People around you that are in marketing as well, that y'all can brainstorm with each other and try to figure out how to, as he mentioned, do things and execute things together, right? That you're passionate about and that excites you. And then I think also having people under you not under you, but people who are, let's say, you're in college, right?
Yes.
So I have people who are in high school that are also interested in marketing that you can provide mentorship for and be around. I think, like, for me at least, this is my specific answer, for me at least, that combination has done a lot to just keep my brain, very active in marketing, keep my ideas fresh, keep me inspired, because I'm like, this person is looking up to me, and I want to be a vessel for that person, but also learning from people who came before me and who are able to pour into me. So times when I feel defeated, I have the course of action from folks who came before me. Times where I feel like maybe my value isn't as pronounced as it should be, I have people who are looking up to me to help guide and light their path. So I just think for me that keeps me like inspired. That's just personal. So
yeah, I mentioned staying curious before, but the other thing I would say is find something that you absolutely love, and that's what and it's not about what you're doing, it's about the subject matter, right? So for instance, I talked about my struggles back in Ohio, being Puerto Rican in an all-white neighborhood, whatever, and how that shaped my upbringing. And I didn't know it, but I ended up doing this, all this time later, and that was part of what sort of lit my fire back then, and it continues to do so now, and it's now expanded because it really gets into this whole idea of cultural anthropology and how that plays into strategy and advertising and whatnot. And so just as you continue going deeper and peeling back layers and finding new problems to solve, I think that always keeps the passion burning so that you don't get burnt out. And then taking time to rest too, right? We have to find time to rest because otherwise, it's harder to keep, that energy really invigorated in yourself.
I would say identify a North Star. Like, why do you want to get into this business? What is it that you find meaning in and what motivates you? So the nature of the job that you're doing in any given moment may be different, but if you can come back to the why, to that North Star, to that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, it sort of can make some of the tough days roll off your back a little bit easier because you're driven by that one North Star that you're following.
And since everyone else, you don't have to worry about your whole career.
That's right.
Just this era, this moment, and go deep.
Yeah.
If you're into something, go really deep. Become a full master of it.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Salam. I'm an early career person, recently finished up a digital gaming fellowship in a lab at Yale, hoping to break into communications and media here in the city. My question is specifically for Louise as it relates to multicultural marketing. As an Ethiopian American, I was very excited to hear about your work in that space. However, I understand there's a multitude of demographics in the US, so I'd be curious to hear what advice or tips you might have for someone interested in that career, but not necessarily having, the lived experiences of the demographics that a client or brand is trying to target.
Great question. No, because, and the reason why I say that is because, lived experience in DNA does not make you a multicultural expert in any segment, right? When I was growing up in Ohio, right, I thought the majority of the Latino population in the United States was Puerto Rican. Why? Because everybody around me was Puerto Rican. When I turned on TV, watched Sanford and Son, or watched, any other show, Chips, which I'm showing my age, sorry.
They're like, what's Chips?
But they were all the Latino characters were Puerto Rican. And my parents were saying, look, that person's Puerto Rican, that person's Puerto Rican. So I thought the entire world, from a Latino perspective, was Puerto Rican. And then eventually I realized, no, we're about this big and Mexicans are like this big, right? But beyond that, I just saw the world through my Latino eyes, and you realize that, there are many. And then not just because of, the various nationalities, but also, a Mexican in LA is very different than a Mexican here in New York, which is very different than Chicago and Dallas, because our surroundings and the people that we interact with all shape who we are and how we act and how we express ourselves, right? So, and then to take that even further, there are lots of folks that work in our agency, both now and in the past, that were not Latino at all, but they became experts in Hispanic marketing. So, and then we've had to push ourselves too, staying true to who we are, but realizing that there is a very broad place for multicultural. We've had to learn to try and become experts in other cultures too, including people with disabilities or veterans or, LGBTQ+. So it's really just about, whether it's your culture or somebody else's, just becoming an expert in it. It is, I know we're going through challenges now, but it is going nowhere, right? Because the demographics are just going to continue becoming more diverse, and those diverse populations are just growing in number. Brands need to connect, and not in a superficial way that's about cast of colors and some cultural things, sprinkled throughout. You got to go deep. You got to go into the insights and understand how those cultures interact with the brands and the categories that you're serving, right? Because different cultures use products and services in different ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Last but not least, thank you for your patience. Our last question of the evening.
Hello, my name is Taino. I had a question. As someone who just recently finished school for visual design and advertising, my question, because I heard somebody mention this book, If You're Not Good, it's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be. I just wanted to know if you can go a little bit more in depth of what you learned from that book. And also, I'm trying to get into UX, UI design, so just wanted to see if you felt like some of the lessons you learned from the book can help you.
The book is like a manual for how to work creatively and beyond. It's divided into 20 chapters that kind of you could read the whole book in less than an hour. And one of the pages is it's got an illustration of this girl at her desk. She's maybe 10 or less, and she's filling out a test and she's hiding the answers. And then the takeaway is give away your answers. Because like we feel like as creatives, we have to hold our ideas, like our ideas are our thing. But when we hold our ideas, then we're holding on to the same ideas. Yeah. And instead it promotes the idea of give them away. First of all, nobody knows what a good idea is. Okay, let alone be able to produce it, fulfill it, design it, so, and there's like 20 of these, and they're really amazing, so get the book.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. We ran out of time, but another round of applause for our wonderful panelists and a great conversation. Thank you. Camilla?
All right, our panelists deserve a bigger round of applause, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to our amazing panelists for great insights, and we hope you're able to stay connected, and we hope to see you again on our next panel on April 10th. Thank you, everybody.